you going to stay around until we kick off, Andy, or do you want me to kick it off? You muted, Andy.
He's muted himself.
Andy, you muted.
You'd think I'd know that by now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I said to the CM today, I said, we're really experienced at doing this Zoom conference in the BMFA. Little did they know.
Yeah, but yeah, I've had a long day. That's my excuse.
Yeah, accept it as a good excuse. Don't you worry. Right, we got.
Okay, so we're live on YouTube.
Yeah.
So that's good. So I'll pass it over to you, Barry, and I will, as I say, I'll be here in the background if you need me, but I've stuff to do.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay, folks. Tonight we've got Pete Harvey and Tim Hobbins going to give us a talk on vintage combat. They're both very active in the vintage combat scene. Tim's been doing it for absolutely ages. Supplies, kits, and there's some control line. They're going to give us a good walkthrough on the event. I mean, from what I see, vintage combat is pretty popular. They seem to get if you look at them at their meetings, which is great. Okay, thank you, John. John Bennett's just said that my volume keeps on going up and down. Mercifully, we're going to be over with Pete and Tim soon. Normal sort of story here. Put your questions and answers in the questions and answers sort of box, and Tim and myself will back those off as and when they come in. Okay, Pete, do you want to pick up, please?
Good evening. Welcome to part 2 of the Vintage Combat presentation. This one is the event. Last time we covered the building of the models and generally getting to the point of an event. Well, tonight is going to be the night that we join the events. There's a couple of pictures here that and if you don't really know what's going on in combat, this you will do by the end of this evening. Both these pictures do tell a little bit of a story, which as a casual observer, you won't sort of really understand what's going on, but you will do very shortly, I'm sure. From where we got on to last time, if you've built a few wings and you've been out doing a bit of flying, and I know that there have been, I've had a few emails from people that have, since the last one last year, have built models and, you know, have basically been preparing and practicing on their own. Well, if you're one of them and you're fancying having a go and you're looking to do your first bout, are you prepared? One of the things that's well worth doing is have a little read through the BMFA rulebook on the for controlling combat. It's there's nothing really too surprising in there, but just have a read through, get an idea. You won't understand what it all means. I certainly didn't to start with, but I think I've got a pretty good handle on it now. Moving on from there, a kit box. You need a little bit of a box with a few spare parts in it. Don't go getting too overstocked with things. I've got a box here, but I'll maybe show you later. Really, the main thing is a propeller and a spanner that fits it, and a fuel bottle with a finish nozzle on it, so that if you get any muck in your venturi, it can be flushed out. That's the two main things that you need as for a pit crew. But to start with, you'll be using experienced pit crew, and they will have pretty much everything that you'll need. One of the issues, the next issue on their footwear. Now, depending on where the flying site is, the conditions can change quite a bit. I've actually flown in trainers with lightweight sandals and even walking boots. Just think about it, where you're going and what the conditions are likely to be, and wear something appropriate, because it's too easy to find yourself slipping and sliding about. Next thing is, as you'll see in the rules, the helmet is a pretty necessary thing to have. You don't need anything fancy, just a lightweight sort of climbing type helmet from Go Outdoors or somewhere like that. Preferably one without a peak on it, because it's amazing how many times you're actually looking up vertically, and you don't really want a peak cutting your vision out. So just a simple lightweight helmet. You can buy one from Go Outdoors for about 20 or 30 pounds. You might even get one cheaper. I have seen there are some people that are using like cycle helmets, which I'm sure are fine as well. On the screen there, you'll see that I've put watch. Now, don't bother too much about that to start with, but once you've got over the first sort of hurdle and you've flown your first few bouts, it's nice to know at what point of the bout you're at, because sometimes you can lose track of time, and sometimes you'll only have about a minute gone by, and you'll think that you've nearly finished, and other times you'll be nearly finished and you think that there's only a minute gone by. So as experience comes on, it's well worth getting hold of a watch. Next question that we've been asked is, how many wings do you actually need to take to a competition? In your early sort of period of learning to fly in competition combat, I'd say around about four wings is a good figure. If you definitely need two wings with motors on, and if you've only got two motors, I mean, you could probably come with one motor. I think I did to start with. I think I only had one motor, and would turn up with 3 or 4 wings, and somehow or other managed to get by. Generally, I didn't progress much further than the second round anyway. So, but as you get a bit more experience, you do need a bit more kit with you. Once you start looking to fly in the quarterfinals and semi-finals and the finals, you're probably looking at needing at least 6 models. You won't use them all, but you can get pretty close to it at times when models get battered, and you want to do a quick change before a bout or something like that. It's handy to have a few extra models, but 4 wings and 2 engines is a great place to start. If you haven't got that, don't worry too much. Still come and have a go. The next item on there is one that we covered last time, but I'll mention it again because I've had a couple of questions about it from solo or a team flyer. If you're a member of a team, or you have a team local to where you live, we'll cover this a bit later on where the main teams are based, but that's great. Get in contact with them, and I'm sure they will all welcome you in and come and go and practice and train with them, as I did when I was lucky. I've got Tim and a few of the other guys from the Sheffield area who I'd go and fly with, and whilst when I first started, it probably was quite hilarious to them watching me staggering about a bit. But eventually they teach you and get you going. But it is doable on your own. So as a solo flyer with a self launcher or another flyer that can come and is prepared to help launch for you, you can get a reasonable amount of skills learn on your own. But we'll come to that again in a minute.
Can I just say something on that, Pete?
Yeah.
The combat teams tend to be geographical. So in different areas of the country, you tend to have groups of people that have got together and formed a team. Like we're called the Hawks, and we're Peter mentioned Sheffield. Broadly, that's okay because I'm about 60 miles away from the Sheffield. Down south, you've got the Southeast Combat Association. There's half a dozen people in that one, and then you've got South Bristol over on Bristol, and then up north you've got the Novocastrians, and there are other clusters of people flying. So what tends to happen if you show up with a competition and you're on your own, you'll probably get adopted, and people will pull you in, and you can. It's quite hard to turn up at a competition on your own because you're always looking for pit crew. But if you're in a team, it's a much better way to do it. So it isn't the team side of it isn't a major problem. Just turn up and you'll probably get adopted and integrated into a team.
Yeah, that's it. The other thing that you might not be too sure about is the layout. What sort of layout are you going to find when you arrive at a site? Generally, the sites are laid out in a field, and there'll be an area along a fence line somewhere for parking your cars, and opposite that, or out, not far from your cars, across a little walkway or something, there'll be your pitting areas where you set up and set all your gear up, and you generally do have a couple of practice flights out in front of where you're pitting, and somewhere within that area will be a designated competition circle, sometimes one, sometimes two, depending on where we on how many entries they've got. Now, the combat circle itself I hope you can understand what it's drawn out here, but it's fairly straightforward, hopefully. We have an outer circle, 20 meter radius. That circle, no pit crew can cross that line. Once the bout has been started, which is at 30 seconds. Yeah, well, we'll come to that in a minute. But that you mustn't cross that line there, and the pilots on takeoff, when the wings are launched, will go straight into the circle. No walking around the outside. Straight into the circle, and then rotate in the middle. Both the red and the blue teams. Generally, the wind direction, if in this direction, you'll take off with about 90 to try and get a 90-degree separation. So you'll have one team here, the red team here, the blue team here, and I think that's fairly straightforward. Launch the model, pilot goes into the middle. The scorers will be located roughly in this area. One scorer for the blue team and one scorer for the red team. And then also in the same drawing layout, we have a centre marshal who I'll come to that in a minute, who will be watching out what's going on and keeping a check on everything. I'm just gonna have to hit the heating on in here. I'm flipping freezing. Right. Right, flying skills. There are a couple of just two things really. One is dizziness. Everybody pretty much gets dizzy, it's a question of managing it and learning to control it. You see, even some of the more experienced flyers, if they have a situation where their opponent has gone down and they're flying straight and level for any length of time, when their opponent comes back up, so I've seen one or two of them get a little bit dizzy. So one of the things to do when you're practicing is to actually practice doing some straight and level flying. Fly for a minute straight and level. Don't just stand there and maneuver. Keep harden your skills for the dizziness. The next thing is the combat aids, which is what all control line combat really is based around. When you're called for combat on, if you look at the person attacking will be stood to the left of his opponent, and the lines will come across. They won't be touching because they'll probably be slightly above, and that as it comes into attack, you will well, if you're assuming it's you that's being attacked, you will bunt. You will fly down, around, and out, and then loop, and then bunt, loop, bunt. You can see in the photo in the bottom, the pilot attacking has his arm. It's actually the person that's flying in black. The person attacking me has actually got his arm across the top of mine as he's coming in onto my streamer, and then I will be going into a bunt maneuver to get out of his way. So, or to defend myself, I'll go into the bunt and then a loop, or you can bunt and vary. Once you get reasonably okay, it will just flow from bunt to loop, bunt to loop, and you can adjust. Just let yourself settle down and try and fly as smoothly as you possibly can, and keep it as consistent. As a beginner, allow your opponent to attack you, and the good guys will come and they'll take little nibbles off of your streamer. It's quite impressive to watch, actually. But yeah, and you just keep it flowing and learn how to cope with it and to deal with that. And vary the sizes of your maneuver, your loop, and then and your bonds. Vary them, pull it around the circle a little bit. But that's really the main thing of control line combat, is the combat aids.
The combat aid, the figure eight that Peter's just described, means that you don't tangle your lines. You can do that all day, follow each other all day, and the lines will never get crossed, and you never get into a line tangle. Now, obviously, line tangles do occur, but that's a good basis. It's a good defensive mechanism to start with, and if you're beginning, that's something that once you've learned it, you'll use it a lot. And if you watch a lot of combat bouts, even the experts, you'll see it going on all the time, because you don't tangle, and obviously that's a benefit to both parties. So, okay, Peter.
Yeah, it's not always obvious why you can't. You should not, in the situation that's drawn there. If I was flying the blue plane, if I was to do a loop, the lines are tangled. They're actually twisted together, and that becomes a problem in it. But doing the bunt, like as Tim's just said, by doing the bunt and doing these combat aids, you can just stand there all day long, and it'll and you'll see what actually is occurring. It's good when you get it flowing. It's really good. Right, the participants and their duties. We'll still go back to that centre circle, and we had the centre marshal. The centre marshal's job is to, well, primarily to make sure that everyone is safe. And it'll start at the beginning of the bout by he'll hand out the streamers to a streamer to each team, a red or the blue streamer, and then he will line pull from your handle to the model, to the bell crank onto the model. It's about 12 kg pull that he'll pull on it, just to ensure that all your line connections and your fixings are all strong enough. 12 kg is a fair pull, but occasionally you do see failures in a competition, which is probably not a bad thing, really. It is showing that the testing is worthwhile doing, and highlighting any problems. Which going back to the previous presentation, we did actually mention about when you're building your models to actually do a little bit of a line pull during the construction of the models as well, just to ensure. But it's better to find out you've got a problem before you covered it. That's really what I'm getting to. So yeah, so once the line pull's done, and then the centre marshal will then ensure that will communicate with the scorers and timekeepers to ensure that they're okay and that each pit crew is okay, and then you'll put on a 30-second warm up. So you've basically now got 30 seconds to start your engine and allow it to warm up. Sometimes if you get an engine that's a little bit touchy, you can end up getting very close to the end of that 30-second before you get it started. But generally, most people will have an engine running and able to launch at that 30 seconds. And he will count down the last 10 seconds of it. He will notify you that you've got 10 seconds to go, and then count down the last 5 and signal to each pit crew to launch. Now, if you're, depending on which team you are, if you're the one that's in so we should say at the front, you've got a problem. You launch your model and fly and get yourself into the circle and rotating. If the conditions are a little bit windy or a bit blustery, and you're in the second team on the circle, just hang back a few seconds. Just allow the first team to get a quarter of the way around the circle before you launch. Just a handy thing to do, so you don't end up getting tangled or hitting each other on takeoff. So that's a little point worth remembering. Once you're both in the air, you're required to fly straight and level, and ideally you want to be about 180-degree separation between you. It's not cast in stone, but it's as far, really that's what you need to do. And you might be asked to separate, where one of you will do a maneuver, wiggle about a bit to slow your model down, get the separation. Once the centre marshal's happy, then you will begin. He will say, call you into combat on, and then you go into your combat. One will attack the other, and you will try, hopefully continue until the 4 minutes is up. The full 4 minutes of actual combat is up, and then you will be counted out, and that's the end of that story as far as the centre marshal concerned. If you do get into a tangle and both models come down, then the centre marshal will direct your pit crew into the circle to come and help untangle the models. If one of you goes, moving on to the pit crew, there's a few things that the pit crew duties that they have to do. The main one, obviously, is to start your engine, and as you can see in the other picture, one guy is launching the model, the other guy is holding the streamer. Now, once they're off out into combat, the pit crews will generally separate themselves to either side of the circle. So if you come down, then one of the pit crew will run around the outside of the circle, as you can see marked out by the cones. Will run around the outside and will only go into the circle once directed by the centre marshal, and at 90 degrees. So if the plane has gone down, you cannot run across the circle to get to it. And then you retrieve the model, take the model outside of the circle, and then restart it or do any work that is required to get it back up again. It's fairly straightforward, but the main thing is that the pit crew keep outside of the circle. The scorers. We'll move on to the scorers. Was there anything else, Tim, you think that people need to know about marshalling and the centre marshal and pit crew?
Not really, just the outline of how long the bout lasts. What you can't step out the inner circle. That's if you go out with 2 feet, that's a disqualification.
Oh, yes.
Because it's dangerous. Yeah. If you step out of the inner circle, you're shortening the distance between you and your model, and the pit crew standing just outside. So you have to be careful, and it's a disqualification. You get disqualified if you do that. Other than that, as long as you stay in the circle, stay in the air, do your best, keep your eyes open, and keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, basically that's it, isn't it? Yeah. So as well as the pilots, once you're flying, you must not step across that line there with both feet. If you've got one foot goes across, you'll get a warning. If both feet go across, you're instantly disqualified, because if your feet go across there, your model could be across this line here. So safety is a very important factor with all this. I mean, I don't know whether I don't know. I've never seen in my short period an accident really.
We've got 100% safety record.
Yeah. Scorers, right? Moving on to the scoring. Now, the 1 cut equals +4 points. Ground time penalties, you get a -1 point for every 15 seconds you're on the ground. Now, you can see the red team here have 2 cuts, which gives them 8 points. Now, they had a session on the ground where they had 36-second time. They were timed for 36 seconds on the ground. But that's 2 blocks of 15. The other 6 don't count, so they get a -2. And then they had a 14-second time slot on the ground, but that wasn't 15 seconds, so that's 0, giving you a total of 6. The blue team had 1 cut, so they had 4. Now they had 58 seconds on the floor. It's not 60 seconds. If it had been 60 seconds, they would have had -4. So it's all works. And this here is they had 16 seconds, which is more than 15. So they're -1. Total is 0. So the blue team is a loss. it's a good system. It's a good way of working. There are other systems that some of the other classes use, but this works pretty good. And then the scorers will have a board where, similar to this. It's not a great picture, but it gives each bout both pilots, and then you say you afterwards you mark down who wins, who loses, down for the first round, and then all the losers will move through into the losers round, and then they all fly each other. The winners will move straight through to the second round, and the winners from the losers round will go through into the second round. This guarantees you 2 bouts at least for a competition. If you're really good or a little bit lucky, you can find yourself into the third round, and if your day's going with you, you get through to the quarters, semis, and then the finals. The semi-finals, obviously, there'll be 2. There'll be the main final for first and second, and then there'll be a final for third and fourth. All fairly straightforward. The more you see it, the more you'll understand it. I generally will go and do scoring. With all the scorers are volunteer flyers, and majority of people do a little bit of scoring, but I don't mind doing it. It's okay. Get in there, you get to know who the people are, and get to watch the bouts pretty closely as well. So it's all fairly straightforward once you've seen it 2 or 3 times. Right, the events and the entries. The main calendar is on the Combat Association website. It's also on the Facebook group, and if you were to email Tim, he will email you a copy of the calendar. This coming year, we've got several events. I think the first one starts in Bristol, which is always a good place to go, and then there's quite a few of them at Buckminster. In fact, there's going to be 2 at Bristol, with a reasonable separate. I think March, April time, and then around about in August, and then up at Northeast at Albemarle Army Barracks. I think there will be 2 events there, and I think is there 2 at Southend as well. Two at Southend.
Basildon. It's Basildon, yeah. Basildon Sports Ground.
Yeah, which is a great. It's a great site. They're all good sites. The people are all friendly. The Basildon one is on a sports club where they supply food and everything you can need. At Albemarle, the guys up at Albemarle, they're pretty good as well. They supplied us with sandwiches and drinks and stuff. So and Bristol's a similar sort of setup as the Southend one. Buckminster, I mean, I think a lot of people by now know Buckminster, and it's a great site. You can camp right close to where you're going to fly. It's just a really relaxed weekend. So the next thing is how to enter the competitions. On the main Combat Association website, on the calendar, there is a tab for clicking for your entries, and you just click on there, put your BMFA number in, and the team that you're, or the club that you're with, you put the club name in, name in. If obviously if you're not with a club, you just put none in there, and that'll highlight to Tim actually, who will be processing the entries that you'll be looking for a team, and he'll help, or we'll all help you sort out a team and some helpers to help you get through your first event. So yeah, so that, as you can see, the event locations, that's where we're going to be this year. Now the team locations are in these areas. There are teams. There's a small group of people on the south coast around Southampton, Bournemouth area. So they're all a set of good lads. And then in the Yorkshire area, we've got a fairly good contingent of guys as well. So yeah, that's the areas to look for. Yeah, I can see if you're down in Cornwall, Devon and Cornwall, I can see there's going to be a lot of travelling. But yeah, we're fortunate because we're living in the middle of the country. But yeah, it's generally, as with Tim, I have about a 60-mile drive to go when we're practicing. I think with most things in life now, you have to drive a little. There's a bit of travelling involved, but that's just to give you an idea of it. New sites. There's a couple of new sites that have been going to be looked at over this coming year in the Midlands area. But if you know of anywhere, or your local club, or that could host an event, please let Tim or the association know. Yeah, that, yeah, because they're always looking for extra sites. So yeah, yeah, there's a, where are we at now? Yeah, all right, okay. So information resources, we have the official website, combatflyers.co.uk, Facebook, Combat Flyers Association. That's a one well worth looking out for, and Tim's site for kits and equipment and a lot of other stuff as well on there. Going back to the Combat Flyers .co.uk, there's a lot of helpful tips on that as well, which is well worth looking at. And then you got your BMFA, the BMFA control line rules. Well, that they are linked actually from the Combat Flyers website directly to that page, but Google will find your way to that. And then YouTube actually is quite good for building tips. I know Tim's posted a few on YouTube, which are really good for for covering and making. There's a couple on there for tanks and other items like that. It could probably do with a good one for actual flying, for beginners for flying, but maybe we'll have a look at that, doing that later in the year, next year. So
Peter, can we talk about the models that you're flying? What's a model to fly at the moment? I mean, for example, is that a Dominator or something like that?
it's actually built from one of Tim's kits. It's
Liquidator.
a liquidator.
Yeah.
Yeah. This model actually has had quite a lot of use. It's probably I've probably flown it. It's probably had 50 or 60 flights out of this one model, and has actually done
That was
several
record for you,
several
Peter.
bouts.
Yeah.
It's had a few repairs done to it, but they all do. It's
So what would be the difference between, say, you know, like a Dominator or a Warlord and that Liquidator? Do they fly very differently, or you know, what would you go for that plane?
They all fly slightly differently, and you'll find that because they're basically very crude designs made out of balsa and glue, and we still use nylon to cover them, that they vary quite a lot. And you'll find that one person's Warlord might be very different from another person's Warlord. It's just the way he puts the weight and how he trims them up and all the rest of it. But having said that, you know, within the little tiny differences that a combat player would notice, the designs look very similar. You know, they're all basically 3 foot span, and they've got about an 11-inch cord and an elevator on the back of it. And within that, there's a bit of tinkering. But, you know, all the plans are pre-1974 designs. So Ironmonger, Liquidator, Warlord, Warmonger, all that sort of thing. And it cuts off before the foam models. So it's basically very low tech, very straightforward, pretty much a pretty level playing field. So nobody's got a super model with a supercharged glow motor in it. We all fly diesels and we all fly up to 1974 models. And it's been a successful formula. The Vintage Combat, I think it's the most popular control line sport or competition out of them all.
For sure it is.
Yeah.
So is weight very important?
Sorry?
Is weight very important?
Well, yeah. The weight of the models.
Yeah, you've got to keep the weight down. But I mean, we're using engines now. These models are built to be powered by an Oliver Tiger, which is a fairly underpowered sort of thing. The models we got now, we've enlarged the engines to a 19 size, which is 3.2 cc, and they create quite a bit more power. So you don't have to build featherweights. If you can build something down to about 15, 16 ounces, it'll still fly well and it'll stand a few crashes. If you don't want it to disintegrate as soon as it hits anything. So yeah,
the balancing act between weight to strength. So you can build a light one, but it picked up easy. Is that the game?
You're breaking up ever so badly, Barry. I didn't.
Yeah,
really
Barry.
Okay.
I think I've got what you're saying. I mean, because this is like my 5th year really flying control line, trying to fly control line combat, and to start with, the first couple of years really, the models need to be strong, because you are going to hit the ground and have a few comings together. And I certainly didn't have any models under 16 ounces, but so I probably had some that were fairly close to 17. But in this last year, I know that I can't get away with 17. They've got to be 16 or under really to be, to progress through to the later stages in the competitions. The engines, there's a bit of a problem at the moment with getting hold of the Ukrainian-made engines, but the PAW is a really good engine. It's really good, and there are the 4Js that Tim's used. Tim's won a round of the championship with a 4J, and they're just very simple, reasonably easy to operate engines. Nothing fancy about any of them engines. And the propellers, standard Ram or Taipan propellers. If anybody ever has any difficulty getting hold of any of these propellers, just contact Tim or the members of the association. There's normally people that have got the propellers for you know, that's not a problem. I mean, some of the model shops have got them, but yeah, one of the other little things that you sort of touched on there was about the different designs. Now, I purposely built several different designs, and most of the competitions appeared to be being won by people flying Piranhas. Now, I've built a few Piranhas, and I just don't get on with them. Maybe I will do in a year or so's time, but the Liquidator it is probably one of my favourites. The Squig, that's a good model. The parallel chord wings with the tail sort of out the back a little bit, but they're strong and they're easy to build. And really, that's the priority, is having something that's easy to build, because you want to be able to build a few of them and just set up a little bit of a production line. And I mean, I've got down to now where I can build about half a dozen. It takes me about a fortnight to build half a dozen, but I can do it. So, and that normally keeps you going for a while. But I think last year I started off the year with I started off with a dozen models, and most, I think there's only about 4 or 5 that have been binned sort of through the year, through being smashed beyond my ability to repair them anyway. So yeah.
Okay, that's good, Pete. Is sound any better, Peter?
Yeah, you are breaking up. You're coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with it, Pete.
No,
okay.
Never mind. Yeah.
No, I think we're pretty much there on the questions and answers. Tim's kept up with that. Anything else you guys would like to say?
No, I'm okay, really. That's really all I intended on. Well, I'm qualified to say, really, but maybe in a year's time we could do one a bit on more advanced combat, because there are a few little tricks and things that are in there that you learn about, and maybe touch on the F2E and F2D class combat, which are F2E is a very good. It's like vintage combat, but with modern equipment, and yeah, that's pretty good. That's really good. Nice to fly.
The difference between F2D and F2E?
One diesel and glow.
Okay.
Yeah, F2E is diesel. D is the glow engines. That's that looks fun. I've had a go at flying one, and it is pretty special, really. But whether or not I'd want to commit to going down that route, I don't know. I've touched on that before with the pylon racing, haven't I, Barry?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Yeah. I've gone to control line combat because I wanted something a little bit more manageable and a little bit less intense. But this is getting pretty intense now as well. So yeah. But it's good fun. I've never laughed as much in model flying as I have done in flying control line combat. I mean, honestly, I've almost been rolling on the floor with laughter after a good fly. So, and most all the other guys will have to say the same as well. And they are a really good crew of people. They'll all look after you and yeah, make sure that and help you. But yeah.
Come along to a meeting, Peter.
Sorry, but yeah,
you come along to a meeting. Yeah,
absolutely. Next time we're at Buckminster, I mean, I've always got plenty of models. They're with me now. You come, you can have a go. Honestly,
okay.
you'll like it. You will.
I'll take you up on that, Peter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can get Andy back into wind up the show. The next ITAT is on 19th of December, and that's control line speed. Dick Hart. He's going to be talking about the new classes for 2024. And then for January, we've got Michael House giving us a talk. And we've got the young guy, Martin Thompson, who ran that second-hand model business. He gave us a talk a year or two ago. But he's going to give a talk on how to run a club, bring and buy, and actually sort of make a success of it rather than a failure. He's a barrel of laughs, that nipper. He's been on a reality TV program since we were last had him involved. Looks like Andy's coming back in now.
So yeah, when it catches up with me.
Yeah. Okay, we're just giving the guys have done their bit, Andy, and we were just giving a rundown of the other ITATs we got, and then in the beginning of February we've got the scale guys are going to talk about the 2026 World Championships that they've been awarded at CM. Well, they haven't actually been awarded yet, but
they're bidding for it, aren't
they? Yeah, it'll go for it, no doubt about it. Okay, from my side, thanks everyone for coming. Pretty good attendance.
Thank you. And thank you for Tim and the people that have helped out answering the questions and comments that have